Have you ever just thought to yourself, why me? Why is life so unfair? What do other people see? When they watch me walk by, when I catch my reflection, people run like I have a contagious infection. But it's not my mental health. I know that can be crushing. I'm talking about plaque psoriasis. Bet you didn't see that coming. I'm sick of the judgment, the discomfort and itching. Vtama Cream is the once daily steroid-free treatment I know I've been missing.
Vtama Tapinarof Cream 1% is a prescription topical treatment for adults with plaque psoriasis. Do not use if you're allergic to Vtama Cream. The most common side effects of Vtama Cream include red raised bumps around the hair pores, pain or swelling in the nose and throat, skin rash or irritation, including itching and redness, peeling, burning or stinging, headache, itching, and flu. Tell your doctor about all the medicines you take and if you're pregnant or plan to be. Ask your doctor if Vtama Cream is right for you. You deserve more from your topical. To learn more, visit topicaluprising.com.
Hey guys, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has the tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. And trust me guys, it works. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And the best of all, it is totally free. Yes, totally free. So download the Anchor app today or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hope you can hear me.
Hello, hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
Alrighty. I had to test
Perfect.
everything. I had to test everything to make sure my end was working.
No, well,
And
you know what I think it is, Marco?
Hmm.
I had a similar problem with someone trying to record a podcast on Anchor, and it wouldn't work. And I think I know that I believe it's my microphone because I'm not using headphones. And it
Mm,
always works on Zoom because that's where I do all of my work. But it seems
mhm.
like every other platform, it's almost like you need to use headphones with this microphone.
Probably or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's the first time I've ever ran through that problem through Microsoft Teams.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to get a pair of headphones and see if that makes a difference. But
Because right now I'm just using my Bluetooth ones, but I'm using those for I guess like as a speaker, and then this microphone as my microphone,
oh yeah.
and so I mean I thought it was on my end, but I
No,
guess
no.
well, but yeah, because the I
Yeah.
used to use Riverstream, but then I used Google Duo, and I didn't mind Google Duo, but then um on how they did it, like once the recording came out, I didn't like how it came out, and so then I did Microsoft Teams, and that's what I've been using. I mean, I guess I could have been using Zoom, but that was I don't know why. I just completely
Yeah.
forgot about Zoom, and so
Yeah.
I just stuck with Teams.
Yeah, no, it is quite nice because you can have different audio files. So, it makes it really easy where if one of the people are not speaking loudly enough or they're speaking too loud, you can adjust each individual person without messing up the entire file,
Mm-hmm.
which is why that I like it. So
Yeah, but no, with Teams, I know my episode that just came out yesterday. I was with a former CPS worker, and on his end, you could when I heard back the audio, it sounded just fine. But then when I heard it back on, I believe it was Spotify, it sounded pretty, his end sounded pretty quiet. And I'm like, well, I know when I went through it, it sounded just fine. Even when I before I even published it, it sounded just fine. But now his end sounds a little bit too quiet. My end sounds good. And like how you said, it does with Teams, the two audio files don't come out. It's only just one
Oh,
big
really?
recording. Yeah. Maybe there's an option. I mean, I'm not that advanced in any of that yet.
Yeah.
So I mean, there could be an option, but so far that I know,
Yeah.
it only comes out with one.
The one. Yeah. 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 No, there's been a lot of mistakes on the podcast journey. Like, some amazing conversations that just either didn't record or they didn't come out properly. And then, you lose all of those files, but it's how you learn, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
because I mean, as starting with I mean, I'm a one man team, so when I get busy and I just get so much stuff that happens, I completely forget about like with the podcast, and I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta tell them. That's why, I could in through the email, I could kind of somewhat, uh, feel like your frustration a little, kind of like, oh, well,
Yeah.
come on, man, like, I mean, I felt bad, but I'm like, well, I mean, I'm a one man team. I mean, when I get piled with a lot of stuff, I can't just try to do a bunch of stuff
Delegate.
at the same time.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, I mean, right now I'm just a small one, but until I can hire people, then then I hope I
Yeah.
can.
That
It,
then it makes
works
it
out.
a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
For sure.
I also have not only my work, bills, all the fun stuff, the podcast, and then I also have the real estate. Well, like trying to get my real estate license. Um, to be an agent, so I can learn real estate that way. So then, once I get older and have the money, I can invest in real estate, and I kind of know on what I'm doing rather than just thinking I know by watching YouTube videos, step in and then get completely screwed because I don't know what I'm doing or I don't
Yeah,
really
definitely.
know the
And real
market.
estate is one of those things that is very scary to some people because, it's this like really big thing. But what I've come to learn is there's so many opportunities to invest in real estate, like whether you want to be a real estate agent, you want to invest in real estate. But I recently learned from a friend of this kind of like intermediate position that's called rental arbitrage. Have you heard
Mhm.
about that?
I feel like I have. I've heard of arbitrage before, but oh yeah, you
Yeah,
can go ahead and explain it.
it's this really cool thing that my friend told me about, and it's basically where you rent out a whole property from a landlord or from whoever. So you take on the responsibility of paying the rent each and every month, and what you do is you find individual tenants for each room, and you scale up the price a bit, and then you take whatever profit. So it's kind of like an Airbnb kind of scene. Like that
Hmm.
that is what Airbnb is, except you do it on like a longer scale renter thing. Because if you think of like landlords and big investors, they don't want to deal with each individual person. So what they do is they want to rent it out to one person and make it a done deal. So then you come in there and then you fill each individual spot for a small profit. And then, a few of the people that I know, they're making 50% margins where they're renting a property for 3 grand a month and they're earning 6,000. So minus cost, you have 3,000 profit.
Dang. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. But it's like one of those things where people don't get told all of these opportunities, right? Like you don't get told this at school. Um, Most of the time your parents won't teach you about it, but it's just one of those things that you just learn over the course of time that there are so many opportunities to start investing.
mhm. Because when people hear investing, the main one they know is just in the regular old stock market, and that's still even a great way to invest. But people don't know the other ways to invest. Like, yes, you can keep your money in the stock market, do however you want and whatnot. But then people hear real estate and they think, oh, that's too hard. Let me just put in money in the stock market and that's it. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I mean, if you know how to, don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you know how to put it everywhere, you come and realize, hey, real estate investing is also great, and same with the stock market and crypto. For how it is right now, it's kind of iffy.
It's
For
it's
how
a bit dicey, yeah,
for what's going on. I mean, I don't know if you heard about the whole FTX thing.
big time.
That's that really screwed up the market, and now people are really even wondering, should you even invest in crypto anymore because of that? And
Yeah,
so right now it's just, and I mean, it's in high school, it's just you learn subjects that don't really matter at all. And once you get to college, even then, sometimes in college, they're like, okay, do your generals and maybe do one or two classes of what you're majoring in, but also fill in with these classes that don't really make sense. Like,
yeah,
when I
yeah,
went to
and
college.
that's like one of those things where it's like, everybody gets told to invest in the stock market, in crypto, and in real estate. But my philosophy for investing, until you've made a more substantial amount of money, is investing in yourself first. Like
Mhm.
investing in yourself first and your personal development is by far the most important, because it's a non-taxable. It doesn't go up with inflation, and it holds with you for life. And then from there, if you're starting a business, then you can invest in your own business. And once you've done those two, then you can invest in either the stock market, crypto, or the traditional um, stock market. But that's the one thing that people neglect a lot. And what I've learned in business is that personal development is 80% of it, at least. Just like becoming an above average person. And that's something people neglect, is because they want their money to grow immediately, but they don't think of improving themselves and improving their own skills
Mhm.
first.
Because like how you said, I mean, people want to improve their money and whatever, but then yeah, you have to go back to yourself and say, what am I doing? What can I do to fix myself in order for that to happen? Because if you just say, oh yeah, you make money, stock market, boom, I'm gonna put my money in there. Unless, if let's say you're a greedy person, you don't know how to manage your money well. You just a lot of things that you need to fix within yourself. Just investing, especially if you have a lot of like anger problems and whatnot.
Yeah.
When you put a lot of money in there and it's just a bad quarter, companies aren't doing that great, then just anger can come
Yeah.
out, and that's not good. And then that's where the whole gambling comes into play, where they say, oh, well, if I just keep buying more, it'll go up. And yeah, I mean, it's.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's it. Like, it's just one of those things where um like when you're either, growing a business or you're trying to pursue anything, like a lot of it is relearning what it means to be successful.
Hmm.
And especially when it comes to beliefs, like money, for example. Like, I'm sure we've all been told those common narratives around money, like money doesn't grow on trees, money's hard to make, people who have money are all evil, or they're all corrupt. Like, we don't realize it, but that has a really strong impact, especially when you're told that when you're a kid.
Hmm.
And then you grow up and you genuinely believe that. So when you start accumulating any amount of money, you're going to think that it's bad, so you're going to limit yourself to how much you can make.
Hmm.
And that's one thing that I've noticed, when I first started growing my business, is that the strategy wasn't the hard thing to learn. Like, you can learn business strategy very easily, but it's going internally and rewiring all of those limiting beliefs you have around money, around success. Uh, and only when you start doing that is when you're going to start seeing real growth.
Hmm. Because I know, because when I went to college, I first went to, cause you just like a lot of high school kids, you once you get out of high school, you kind of don't really know what to expect, what you really want to do in college or in life. And so when I went to college, I've even before I graduated, I kept telling my parents, I'm out of my siblings, my older brother and my younger sister. And just the family alone. I'm gonna be the richest one. I'm gonna be the one with the most money. Yada yada yada. And then getting out of during high school, I kept repeating it to myself, and I'm like, okay, I see a lot of people who do games and whatnot are successful. Let me go to computer science, and then I went to computer science, and it obviously it was hard, but it's just because how fast they move. So I went to business administration, but then that's when COVID happened, and then I guess kind of I did classes online, but when I was still lost, and as I kept getting older, watched more videos on YouTube and whatnot about just business, I started realizing a lot of things that they teach you in business classes in school. A lot of the times, a lot of those graduates aren't going to start their own business. They're just going to go join, obviously get employed by another business just to help them out, but really they don't know how to really use that into their own. If they want to create their own business, they're not really using that to even help them. And even sometimes um a lot of things that they're getting taught, yes, it's a lot of big names about like a very important stuff, but you're getting taught by someone that probably is only reading by a book, doesn't really have the real world experience, neither do you. And so then once you are out there, you don't really know what you're doing. Or let's say you want to start a business. Yes, you may have a bachelor's in business administration, but when you go out do it your own, you're nobody because you yes, you knew how to do it in school, but those practices weren't put into real life situations. So now you're back into square one, and
Definitely.
that's and to me, I'm not saying college is a bad thing for whatever you want to do, depending on whatever you want to do, whether most of the time when it's like in the health field and whatever, perfect. No, you need it. But to me, when it comes to a lot of business stuff, people learn more they go out and do it themselves. They learn more that way. I mean, yeah, you can learn about finance and a bunch of other stuff. But I feel like you learn the most when you go ahead and do it because you can know through the failures, through the successes, what works and what doesn't. You can get told what works in school, but you're not you're not really applying that to your own business.
Yeah.
And no, to me,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like I did 4 years in college, and it was quite valuable. And there definitely is a place for colleges and universities, like you had mentioned, depending on what your intentions are. But yeah, you are completely right, especially when it comes to things like business school. I mean, I have personally never gone to business school, so I can't relate on personal experience. But from what I've heard from friends that have gone, you are right. A lot of the times you don't get taught how to build a business. You usually become a CEO or something else. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but the notion that by doing 4 years you're going to be guaranteed to start a successful business is nonsense, because prior to 2020 I had zero business experience. I was a mechanic for 9 years. Like, I knew nothing about business. But a year and a half into growing my business, not only have I started profiting money, but I've built it to a point where I can do it full time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just saved myself like 2.5, 3 years of nonsense, right? So to me, the most important thing is just taking action. And you are right. You learn so much more from doing something and then failing and then learning from those mistakes and applying it to your future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that, I hope more people learn.
Because with when like I said, when people get taught business in school and whatnot, um, just like I mean, you've probably heard the norm of the 9 to 5 rat race. Probably a lot of people have heard that term, and how schools teach you to become an employee, not an employer, which here and there it can be true, but because a lot of those kids that do come out getting a business degree, some are still lost because again they learn how to become an employee, and but like let's say they went to school because they want to start a business, they want to learn how to do it, but throughout the whole entire time that they were in school, they just they're lost on how to even start a business because you're only getting taught the back end, not
Right.
not what you
Not the
really
actual
need to
front end.
do. That
Yeah.
can not for the forefront and center because just like in I mean, really just like with anything. I mean, if like a um I don't know, like if you're a McDonald's and you're working, like let's say you want to be I don't know, the owner of McDonald's, like of that franchise, but then once you realize, oh, you got to do all this other stuff, and then you do all that, and you're like, oh, now you got to work from the very bottom. So you have to become an employee, then go up to a manager, and then a general manager. Just keep going up the ladder, and you're like, well, I I I know the back end, but I don't know how to like. I don't like. I want to become that, but I can't because
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah.
any of that experience.
That's why I feel intention is the most important thing because, you know, I have a friend and she like her coaching business is doing over $100,000 a year. So she's doing pretty well. But she's also going back to business school because that's what she genuinely wants to do. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why intention is so important. Like I know a lot of people working regular 9 to 5 jobs, but they love it. They love going to work every single day and it's their passion. And that's completely okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. But to me and in my own experience, what's not okay is settling for that, even though you know that you can do something greater. And
Mm-hmm.
especially not excelling because you're either too afraid to do it or you're too afraid of what other people are going to think. And so that fear stops so many people, and that's not okay. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
that I got so inspired and so driven to help people along that journey because, you know, if you're surrounded with the exact same friends that you've been hanging around since high school and the same family members, and they have a narrative of what you should be doing in your life, like staying at a mediocre job, even though you're completely miserable, like that's suffering. And I felt that way. Mind you, like, you know, the intention was not for the friends and families to limit you, but that's just the paradigm they're operating under. So when you want to break that paradigm and you want to expand and you want to pursue your own passions, that really triggers a lot of people subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it takes a lot of courage and a lot of confidence to basically ignore what other people are saying and just going after what you want.
Mm-hmm. Like my girlfriend, she's going to school to be in the human services career, but right now she's a team lead at Walmart, and a lot of people. I mean, I also work at Walmart for right now, but in the times that I've worked at Walmart for the past like do 3.5 years, maybe close to 4, a lot of people there are miserable as shit, and she loves it. Like she loves a job. Sometimes when she's just so passionate on what she does, happy to go to work. The salaried managers kind of look at her like, "Why are you happy working here? Like, why are you happy working?" And I tell her, don't let them being miserable at that job change that because I told her if you decide to have a career at Walmart, I'm not gonna look down on you. I mean, you can because Walmart, you do it the right way, you're gonna make a career out of it. And with me, obviously, me wanting to do the podcasts and then get into real estate where I'm I'm not working hour. Well, yes, I can be working hourly, but I'm not getting paid hourly. I'm not getting paid a salary. I'm starting with nothing, and having to grow that. Now, I in school, I was known. I'm like a known person, but not like a popular person. And so then starting out having to do this having to get listeners, having to people to get interactions for my post and for the podcast is really challenging because again, I'm not people know me, but I'm not like the popular person, so I'm not
Yeah.
getting the engagement that I want. And my girlfriend always looks at me like, "Well, why are you still doing it? Like, how do you do it?" Like, I like, and there's been times in her face where she kind of says, kind of just like stop in a way. But
Mhm.
also she knows that I'm passionate about doing this, and I've told my parents about it. I've told her family about it, and they kind of just look at me like, "Oh, cool,
Yeah.
cool that you're doing that. Like we don't really care, but cool." So when you go into work, and I'm
Yeah.
like, "You're not listening. You're like, I'm trying to tell you what I want to do, and some of you guys just don't listen, or some of you guys say you guys support me by saying, "Oh, that's great, whatever." But I don't see you guys aren't even listening to one episode or watching one video or even supporting me saying, "Hey, uh, we'll get you a little small gift for the podcast or anything." Like, it's always like the support because, like I said, people are scared to take it because of what people might say, but then also the support from their own people, where you may have a lot of family members that that know you, but then when you want to start your own business, a lot of them, when you tell them, they'll be like, "Oh, well, that's good." You might have some support. You might have to say, "Oh, well, here's the risk factors, whatever." And then you do it, you keep doing it, and some of those keep just saying, "Oh, cool, cool that you keep doing it." So,
Yeah.
how much money do you have? How much money are you making? And you're like, "Well, I'm anything yet, man. I've got to go." And
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh,
Because
well, then it's worthless." You're like, "No,
it
it's not."
it doesn't click for so many people, right? And like that's like there a lot of people are operating under a certain paradigm of like what they consider to be right and what they consider to be successful. So when you start something new like a podcast or doing anything that you're genuinely passionate about, even though they're not against it, it just doesn't click for them because they don't understand what that means, right? And like that's why it's so important to surround yourself with people that you want to become like. And like, that whole saying of you're the sum of the five people that you spend the most time with, it's very cliche, but it's cliche for a reason. It's because it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
It's like so if you keep surrounding yourself with the same people that are limiting that growth, nobody's ever gonna grow. But
Mm-hmm.
then like that's where it gets a bit hard sometimes where you have to disconnect a little bit and search for those new people, search for those new opportunities to meet new people that are more aligned with your vision. And it's scary fast how much you start succeeding when you surround yourself with the right people. And that's why I'm such a big fan of going to networking events, doing these podcasts with a lot of different people, because you start meeting a lot of people and you start shaking a lot of hands. And next thing you know, you have opportunities coming at you left, right, and center. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not possible unless you surround yourself with new people. And that is what I would say is the most important thing for somebody who's starting in entrepreneurship or who is starting at the pursuit of whatever they're trying to achieve.
Because I know there was a saying, I forgot where I heard it, where it said somewhere about if you're the smartest person in the room. No, what? Well, it was something like that. It was something
Yeah.
about if you're the smartest person in the room. Like I think it was like get out of it, or like it was. I don't remember all of it, but I know it has to do something about being the smartest person in the room. But if you're the dumbest person in the room, you'll then become the smartest. I don't remember the full saying. I
It's
don't know
so
if you
true.
kind of know what you're
It's so
talking.
true.
Yeah, I don't know if you know what I'm talking
I
about, but
I I don't remember what the exact quote says, but it is right. I mean, there's a reason why we have two ears and one mouth, because you don't ever learn with your mouth open. You only learn with your mouth closed.
hmm
And that also takes a lot of humbleness because so many people, including myself, like I had a really big ego. Um, and I would never let others speak. But there's a lot of wisdom in realizing that some every single person knows something that you don't, and you have something to learn from everybody. Whether
hmm
you know you know somebody is a lot younger than you or somebody is in a different field and you feel superior, they still know something that you don't. And the wisest thing to do is just shut your mouth and listen to what other people say, because I can guarantee you're going to walk away from that conversation a lot smarter. But not only that, but also like if you're in an argument, we'll say if there's a couple of people arguing, if you just shut your mouth and you sit there and you watch a couple of people argue, and then they all look at for your opinion on this argument, you're going to be able to articulate such a better argument and settle the entire debate because you let everybody say their point of views and you gave yourself a chance to process what's all going on and formulate a proper argument. And that's why, again, there's just such wisdom in just sitting back and letting others speak first, in my opinion.
That's why in a lot of things I'm so like in the middle, because when I hear both sides, you can pick, okay, this is what's wrong with you, this is what's wrong with you, but this is what you're good at, this is the good thing you're saying. You kind of just want to meet in the middle. And that's what like with management, when still being an associate, when and let's say if you watched an associate, I don't know, get in trouble by a customer or whatever, and you watched it unfold, and the associates trying to explain to management, when management won't even let them talk, you get a little bit frustrated. You're like, let them speak, let them hear, because you're like you like when you're listening, you're like, like you know what's going on. Let them speak. Let the management get their own opinion. And sometimes you just want to step in and say, okay, so this is what we can do. So yada yada yada. But obviously, a lot of the world never works like that. You
Yeah.
don't. And I mean, and I know it's a lot of people experience that type of stuff. Like even growing up, like as a child, you only know one. Sometimes you only know one side until you start growing up and you start listening. Let's say your parents argue, you start realizing, hey, like I'm starting to see some stuff that's not good. And then when you want to sometimes step into foot, it's some they kind of look at you like, oh, like you've actually been paying attention,
Yeah.
because you're starting to trying to bring solutions into the table. And I don't know, like,
Yeah, definitely. And like, here's my opinion on bosses versus leaders or management versus leaders. I see the boss mentality as a very ego driven position. It's typically somebody who wants everybody to follow by their rules, somebody who wants to be the one in power and who wants to be the smartest person. But the leader is someone who is driven by growth and who wants his entire team to grow. And it's more of a collaboration versus a competition. Because when you're in collaboration, you have the notion that if you help other people grow, everybody's going to succeed and that there's enough success for everybody. But, typically bosses, there's a lot of scarcity around it. They feel like if they're not in charge and they're not controlling everybody, that somebody else is going to take their power. When in reality, there's enough success, there's enough growth for everybody. And that's why I see there's a really big difference. But unfortunately, most people operate under that ego driven mindset.
that's why a lot of businesses can fail, because
Yeah.
when you have that one boss that just wants to be controlling, basically saying, look at me, I have power, fuck you, I don't care about you, just listen to me, listen to what I have to say, and go do it. And when you don't have a leader, when you don't have leaders creating other leaders, it's gonna fall down. Because because like again with Walmart, when management, because I have a manager, nice dude, perfect. Sometimes he knows what he's doing, sometimes he doesn't, but he's scared about upper management. And there's some upper management that they'll listen to you. They will actually be a leader rather than a boss. Like you don't see them as, oh, I'm scared because that's my manager, I don't want to get fired. You see them as, they're a friend to me because they'll listen, and they'll
Mhm.
talk to me. I feel comfortable with them. And if I ever have problems, I don't feel scared to even talk to them, because I feel comfortable with them because they're helping me. And
Yeah.
And then and again, when you keep going up the ladder, when it's like the store manager, one of the bigger guys, and they again, a lot of them have big egos where they're like, well, like you can just tell when you look at them that they just have one of the biggest egos because again,
Yeah.
they're one of those people of be scared of me because I'm the biggest person in the room. You say something I don't like, or you don't, or you don't do what I tell you to do. Bye, you're fired. It's like
Yeah.
that doesn't help. That doesn't
It's
help anyone.
it's such a big it's such a big different presence that you can notice it right away. Like
Hmm.
on my first job when I was a mechanic, the person in charge, had a really big ego. And you can tell because he was extremely bossy, he was very controlling. But when I stepped into my second job working for the school division where I was living at the time, he had a very growth driven mindset. And I would really consider him a leader, not a boss, because whenever there was an opportunity for me to learn, he would let me do it.
Hmm.
Whereas traditionally, if there was a shitty job, I would always get it because I was always the new person. But when I was working at the other job, if there was an opportunity for me to do something that I've never done before and that was more advanced, he would make sure that I would do it every single time because he wanted me to grow and he wanted me to learn.
Hmm.
So that's the really big difference is somebody who basically wants to keep you down and keep you failing versus somebody who's actively trying to make you grow and make you succeed in whatever endeavor you're doing. And I would say honestly, if I had to choose money over having a good boss or a good leader, I would always choose a good leader because at the end of the day, like yes, money's important, but if you're not happy and you're not fulfilled, money doesn't mean shit, right? And that's why I feel like you know making sure that you're genuinely fulfilled and you're excited to go to work every single day is the most important thing because we're going to work for the majority of our lives, so you might as well make it something that you enjoy.
Hmm. Man, that's completely right. I mean, I not at this new store, but an old store. The other well, at the time they called them CSMs or customer service managers. Now they call them team leads, but at the time they were CSMs. Most of them, yeah, they like I said, they just love to be in power, and you can just and you just knew that. But there was one of them, her name was Jenny. Everyone loved her because she was more of a leader than a boss. Even though yes, she was the boss of all of them, but she was more of a leader. When you needed help, she would go and help you. She wouldn't just say, "Oh, well, there's no one that I can send out, so good luck," and they'll walk away. She'd say,
Mhm.
"Okay, I will tell upper management to send someone on the floor so then I can go out there and help you or whatever the case may be." And that to me, I mean, I wish I would stay at that store, but I moved. But I when I saw that, um, I just kept saying we need more people like her, like in higher position too. Like just because the store manager's making six figures, we need if that manager acted like how this team lead did, oh, we would get so much more done. Like we would see people advance, and the attitude that managers bring out can affect the attitudes to the associates because that's where associates can get cranky, can get angry because of management or stressed because of management. But if a leader knows how to control all of that, leader knows, even though in the most stressful times, still knows how to lead well, you'll enjoy your job. You'll enjoy going to it because you won't feel stressed. You won't feel angry. You won't feel anxious because of your manager, or you're not scared of 1 minute you just pop your phone out to check the time and then you get yelled at and pulled into the office because you looked at the time.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, I mean, I feel like well, we just need more of those type of people. And I think um, part of me is a people person, and when I have had to, I guess you could say, kind of lead people in at my job, I do it like when I'm doing it because of all of the leadership experience that I have seen, and then also the bad experience. I never in my head I'm like, you're not going to be that person that's only a boss. You're going to be that person that's a leader. Even if you're an associate right now, you're still going to be a leader to them because they'll look up to you. Even when you're gone, they'll still say this guy left a good reputation and he has helped some people. And then also when I'm an employer and employing people, I want my employees to feel welcome, to feel loved at when working with me and being a leader. Because if they decide to leave, I'd say, hey, I grew a leader there, and so I'm glad wherever he goes, I'm gonna be perfectly fine wherever he
Yeah.
lands because I know this person's a great person because I created someone, rather than I'm just a boss and tell him I'll just tell him what to do because you guys gotta listen to me. It's like no,
Mhm.
we don't.
Yeah, like, it's 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 amazing to me sometimes, you know, seeing people and they don't realize the power of just being a genuine good person. Like when you're genuinely a good person and you're a good leader, you leave impressions on people forever. I mean, I'm never gonna forget that one boss that I had a couple of years ago because he demonstrated to me what it is to be a good leader. So when you're able to lead by example and you're a good person with good intentions, you're gonna always be successful no matter what endeavor you go in.
Mm-hmm. And I don't mean to completely change this, but I think because I don't have any premium subscription with Zoom, it's telling me I have a
Yeah.
minute left. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Zoom just changed that where you have 30 minutes free, but if you want to go over 30 minutes, you have to get like a premium membership.
Oh, and that fun.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, is it for the meeting or is it just recording?
It's for the entire meeting, so the meeting is will probably stop.
And then I'd probably have to
Restart it, yeah.
re-invite you.
Yeah.
All right, let me just end it now, and then I'll just
Okay, sure.
re-invite you
Yeah,
to
and
do it
then
that way.
also just on a little side tangent, when we're done the podcast, do you mind sending me the audio and video files so I can get my team to like edit clips for myself?
Oh yeah, I can do that.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah, like you can either send it to like Google Drive or like email, whatever is
Mm-hmm.
probably fine.
All right, yep, I'll do
All
that.
right,
And
sweet. I'll see
all
you in
right,
a minute.
all right, sounds good. I can't hear you right now. Let me see. It's on my end.
All right, there we go.
Oh, there we go. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah, so just to let you know, I have like 10-ish minutes and until I have to leave. Um,
Alrighty.
yeah, yeah, like
Yep.
a 10-15 minutes ish. So
10, 15 minutes. All right. Because do you live in Canada or where do you live again?
yeah, so I'm originally from Manitoba, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're not too sure with the geography, it's like the middle province. So it's North Dakota.
Well, North Dakota. Oh,
Yeah. And I grew up there for like the first 20 years of my life. And then when COVID happened, I actually bought a camper van and I moved to British Columbia on the West Coast.
oh,
Yeah, and like that was a whole adventure in its own. We can go into it if you want.
yeah.
Um,
Because right now for you, is it also 322 or would it be
it's 420, 422. Yeah.
422 for
So well,
you,
because right now I'm in Toronto.
Toronto?
Yeah, which is like the East Coast
Yeah.
kind of
Like
deal. But
so. So you probably be
but yeah,
so
man,
you have
like
it till like what 3:30, 3:35 ish is when probably the time you have or
335 ish.
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess I forgot for you. It would be 430 or 435. Yeah.
435, 440. Yeah. Yeah.
Alrighty.
But yeah, so I grew up in Manitoba, and when COVID first hit, like I ended up breaking up with my girlfriend at the time. And I was just so miserable, right? Like, and COVID really gave me an opportunity to slow down
Mm-hmm.
and to really look at my life and see why that I was so miserable. Like I was on antidepressants for about 10 years. Because that's kind of what you did if you're depressed, right? Like if you're depressed, medicate. If you have anxiety, medicate, you know? There was a pill for everything. So like you name it, I was on it, right? Um, but COVID was really a blessing for me because it kind of slowed everything down, and it made me realize why I was so miserable. And I started learning about psilocybin, like magic mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
and I got really curious about their therapeutic effects because there were so many studies at the time of people taking them and having massive changes, either overcoming addiction in a single dose or completely resolving depression or anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I was obviously very intrigued because I was always interested in the more holistic approach. So I took a large dose of mushrooms, and I was never depressed a single day in my life after that. I swear to God. Like the medication really helped take the edge off, you
Mm-hmm.
know, but taking one dose of the mushrooms literally cured me from depression and anxiety on the spot.
Really?
Oh yeah. And not only that, but it made me realize why I was so depressed. I had this massive insight. And in the insight, just to summarize it, I started looking at my life, and it was like, okay, well, you're miserable because of your job. You're miserable because, you're not allowing yourself to grow. Like you need to spread your wings. That was basically the whole message. And so, because COVID, had slowed down everybody's work, I decided to take a 2-month vacation to the Canadian Rockies, like in Banff, Jasper area.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have a plan. I literally just went, and I just started, driving around, exploring, hiking. And within a week, I knew that that was my lifestyle because I knew that I was longing for something, but I didn't know what it was because it was so suppressed by all the misery and all the internal suffering from my, what I'll call my past life, kind of like
Mm-hmm.
pre awakening, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I knew that that's what I needed to do. So after that whole 2-month holiday, I had to go back home because I actually had to finish college. So I had 2 more months left. So I'd finished school, and then I basically broke it to my entire family that I was actually going to quit my job, sell my house, and I was going to move to the west coast of Canada. And they took it surprisingly well. They were very supportive. They didn't understand. They thought I was a bit crazy, because like when you have a really good job, you have a house, and you have all of these, you're basically living the Canadian or American dream.
Mm-hmm.
And when you completely abolish that and you buy a damn camper van, people look at you a bit funny, like, are you thinking straight? Are you okay? But man, was I happy. Like, dude, I was so excited. Like, for the first time in my life, I had like excitement and joy, and I was so pumped for life. And I started waking up energized, which is something that would never happen, right? Like when you wake up and you're miserable because you have to go to a job that you don't like, and then you start waking up every morning excited for life. Um, that's how I knew that the whole nomadic life was for me. So yeah, I ended up moving to British Columbia. I lived there for a bit. I did van life. Worked odd jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But then when the COVID restrictions lifted, my girlfriend and I, who had met in British Columbia, we had went to Mexico, and we lived in Mexico for 6 months while we were growing our businesses.
Dang, you guys lived all the way in Mexico?
Yeah, and it was one of those things where we were doing van life, right? So we were
Mhm.
traveling across Canada, and gas started getting really expensive because of the war, and
Oh, yeah.
so
Yeah.
like when you start filling up your school bus, which was my camper van, and you're spending $220 for a tank of gas, you know, you
Holy.
like when my gas price hit $220, I cried a bit. I was like, okay, I cannot keep doing this type of lifestyle because it wasn't sustainable with how much money with how much money I was making. So, my girlfriend and I both decided that we would sell both of our vans, take the money, and grow our businesses in Mexico because your money can stretch a lot further in Mexico, right? Like the cost of living is about a quarter of what it is here.
Hmm.
So yeah, man, we literally just backpacked across Mexico for half a year, and it was the most eye-opening and amazing experience of my entire life.
Holy crap, that's cool.
Yeah.
And I know going back with the whole like mushroom experience, have you ever heard about an ayahuasca?
Ayahuasca, yes. I have never done it personally. My girlfriend has. Um, but yeah, I'm such a big proponent of, you know, psychedelic drugs for therapeutic use.
Hmm.
I feel like they have a huge potential, and it's one of the reasons why they're becoming decriminalized in Canada is because there are so many benefits to it and so many proven benefits with virtually no side effects,
Hmm.
right? Like when you see people that are addicted to drugs or smoking or alcohol for years and they take a single dose of mushrooms, ketamine, whatever, and they're not hooked anymore and they don't have any side effects. That's a pretty good estimate that what that medicine does works. But again, like the big reason why it's been illegal for so long, it's because on how good it works, right? Like if if everybody's healthy, you don't have a pharmaceutical industry, you don't have a healthcare business. Um,
Hmm.
but that's where I see a lot of things changing nowadays, is that people are becoming a lot more open to alternative medicines. And that's something that's really exciting, is because I can tell you right here, right now, that if I didn't experience magic mushrooms, I wouldn't be where I am today. I would still be working at a job that I'm miserable. I would still be depressed. I would still be suicidal. But I'm here. I'm excited for life every single day. I've started my own business. Like I've made a complete 180 multiple times over. And I attribute it 100% to having that experience, hands down.
Yeah, because I mean, if you really go back even to history, like our ancestors, they didn't have any of the pharmaceutical stuff we have now. And so, I mean, when like, what do you think? They were using like mushrooms, a bunch of other stuff, and I know when I listened to a podcast of Joe Rogan's, um, when he was talking about with the birth of, I think it was like of Jesus Christ or some, I think the whole Christianity group or whatever, when he said something about if you look up Christ, like when you try to date it back, it reverts back to I believe mushrooms or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, there
And
are a lot of stories on how religion came from mushrooms. I mean, one, you have Moses and the burning bush. And if you look at what the burning bush is, it's actually a psychedelic plant that when you light it on fire, it creates a hallucinogenic effect. And then you have Santa Claus, and Santa Claus is known to be attributed with the Amanita muscaria mushroom, which is also slightly psychedelic. And then you have the stoned ape theory, where basically dictates that human consciousness is is attributed to psychedelics, which it makes complete sense because some of the most popular psychedelic mushrooms are found in animal feces. So when we were hunter gatherers and you're hunting for these animals, you're usually tracking them by their feces.
Mhm.
But imagine seeing little mushrooms popping out, and so like you would imagine they would have started taking those mushrooms. and they would have started having a lot of, a lot of insights, and their consciousness would start growing. And, I'm not an expert by any means, right? But from my own research and from what I've heard from other people is that, there was a huge uptick in human evolution. And the period was so short that it could not have been natural evolution. And
Mm-hmm.
in that short time frame, art started becoming a lot more relevant. Philosophy started coming out, religions. Now, if you've ever taken psychedelic mushrooms, that seems like it would be perfectly aligned with a lot of those theories.
It makes sense because when you think about it, same with like art. I mean, when you look at some of the art, even looking at someone like from like way back in the day, you're like, this is really trippy.
Oh yeah.
Like why? Who says I'm gonna create this? And obviously, when you start learning all this mushroom stuff with the psychedelics, you start learning that could be a possibility on why this type of art was created because of the psychedelics. They had that
Exactly.
trip and said, you know what, I need others to see this too. And then again, it also with like religion, because I mean, even though yes, I'm Catholic, I'm still very skeptic on a lot of this stuff. And like the Bible being one of them, it's always how does religion come to occur? But there's like almost zero evidence. People say there is, but there's still zero known evidence. And then obviously learning it back with the whole psychedelics, you kind of like, well, it can kind of make sense on why some religions may have occurred, and just not just religions in general, but just a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
especially art. I mean, to me, once I um kind of dug deeper, I kind of opened my eyes. I'm like, wow, like it um the supposed dangerous drugs that people shouldn't be doing, you go back to their history and you realize it could have been a cause of a lot of things that
Yeah.
we do now.
Definitely. And, I personally don't subscribe to the idea that there's a big white bearded man up in the sky, named God. Could be, can't prove it. So, um, but that's not my philosophy. But, and I'm not very religious, but when you look at all of these religions, whether it's, Hinduism, Christianity, um, any religion, they all have the same universal truth. They all have different gods, um, different servants, but they all tie into the exact same truth. Like if you separate yourself from the literal words that they're saying and you dig deeper into what they're actually saying, all the religions tie into the exact same thing, which is ultimately spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, it's like I really like bridging the gap of spiritualism and science and physics, because now quantum physics is proving what a lot of these philosophies were talking about, about energy and about vibration and about manifestation. And that to me is what's really exciting, is because you're taking all of these religious philosophies and they're being proven, right? But again, it's maybe not like God and Jesus were, you know, these real people. Maybe they were, but maybe they were just stories of experiences through
Mm-hmm.
psychedelic mushrooms. Maybe they were just philosophies. Who really knows? But I think the most exciting thing is that we all get to have our own idea of what it was.
I mean, that's because even then, when people try to depict how Jesus looked or how God looks or whatever, especially Jesus, a lot of churches here in America, they'll try to depict him as a white man. But then you go
Yeah,
back to history and you realize his, if you're trying to be historically accurate, he's
probably wasn't.
um, yeah. Not only was he not white, he's more darker brown to almost black to where he came to where he was born, and the beautiful luscious hair that he has probably also as it came to be. I mean, again, going back to history, and that's why to me it's just so hard to, again, me being Catholic, it's still so hard for me to still try to see a lot of it as truth, because now I don't hate on people on their religion. I respect everyone with their religion. They can believe what they believe. but just to me, it's always hard because it's because they always try to tie in faith and you have to believe and whatnot. It's like, so me believing means true. I know with like manifestation, if me believing where I want to be, it can happen. I can make it happen, whatever. But when it's a God, it's like, how can I really, when something that I haven't, there's been no history, almost zero proven history of this person being real. How can I really trust that? Like, how can I
Yeah.
just say, let me believe in this one guy, and now everything I do is because of this one guy, and every successful thing that happens was because of that one guy. And like I told this one lady, this psychic medium on one of my other podcasts, I told her how some people when they pray and they pray to live a better life, but then they don't apply what they're praying to their real life.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen it like bam, you want to I pray to be a millionaire by 25 and then you
Yeah.
don't do anything. You're like and then you're
Yeah.
25, then you're pissed because you're not a millionaire. You're like, well, it's not it's not the praying that didn't work. You didn't put in the work.
Yeah.
You didn't
You didn't
put in
work.
no. Yeah, you didn't work. You prayed. Like, cause to me, praying is more so kind of a promise like to your mind. Like praying, like I hope like I pray that I can become better. You're kind of telling yourself I like you what you want to be, what you want to do. I mean, obviously, I mean, I know some stuff when you pray for someone's better health, you want their health to be better. I mean, you can only do so much, but when it's like praying about where you want to be, like career wise or just in your life, so this God can only do so much because it all depends on you. You're
Yeah.
praying, but what the heck happened? What the heck happened? Where? Hold on. What the heck happened? I was talking and then it kicked me out of Zoom. Okay,
Oh,
I'm
really?
back. Yeah,
Interesting.
what's going on? Ah, fuck, I'll keep it like this.
All right.
Um,
But yeah, no, you are completely right. And how I see it is that, I'm a firm believer in like putting out affirmations. I don't really pray, but I do visualizations. But how I see it is that, you know, if you want something to happen in your life or you want to attract something, if you want, well, we'll say if you want to be a millionaire by the time you're 25 and you're like your intention is solid on that, right? It's not just going to come to you, but what's going to come are the people and the opportunities to help you get to that goal. And that's what a lot of people don't realize is they think that if they just sit there and pray for what they want and think that it's going to come and fall in their lap, that doesn't usually happen. I mean, it might, but a lot of times what's going to happen is you're going to meet the people, you're going to have opportunities show up for you to put in the work to get to wherever you want to get. And that's why, having strong intuition and knowing that when an opportunity comes that aligns with what you want to get, you've got to put in the work. And I feel like, a really good way to end this conversation is, you know, if you don't know what to believe in or whatever, it's just believe in yourself. Because in the end,
mm-hmm,
like nothing else is proven. You can't prove anything else, but what you can prove is yourself. So you might as well believe in yourself that whatever comes your way, you can get it done, and that if you apply yourself, you're always going to be successful in whatever endeavor you want.
mm-hmm. Because the most successful people were the ones that believe in themselves. The most successful entrepreneurs were the ones that believe in themselves. Because
Definitely.
even though what they're the outside source, they still said, "I believe in myself. I know I could do this," and here they are doing what they're doing. And
Exactly. Like, yeah, like the one affirmation that I always tell myself is I am my own greatest asset.
mhm,
You know, and it's true because people come and go, opportunities come and go, but you're with yourself for life. So what I would say is invest in yourself, take care of yourself, love yourself, and when you start loving yourself genuinely and you start taking care of yourself, that's when you're going to start being successful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Awesome.
man,
Marco, thank you very much. I genuinely appreciate, coming onto your podcast and getting an opportunity to speak.
thank you for wanting to come on the podcast again. I do apologize for kind of doing that last minute of rescheduling.
No
But
worries.
I
It's
mean,
all
hey,
good, my friend.
if it happens again, we might even do a part two and keep going. I
Love
mean,
that. Yeah. Yeah.
like,
We should definitely, stay in touch. Are you on Instagram at all?
yeah, actually, I am.
Sweet. Yeah. Definitely give me a follow because that's where I do most of my messaging. It's
Mhm.
nomadic_Cody.
Alrighty. Just
And
going
then yeah, I
back.
would love to, we can do a part two in the near future, and we can definitely just keep this relationship going.
Yeah, because I really like to be talking about just exactly what we were talking about. Um, and I mean, it's sad how we can't obviously go longer. Obviously, we're busy in life, but if we can come back later, experience
Definitely.
new things, and still come back with some different information, new information,
Big
whatever.
time.
I'd
Yeah,
love
yeah.
to.
And let's just, stay in touch on Instagram, and then yeah, we can definitely make something work.
Sounds good. This
Great.
I was gonna make someone else's episode come out on Christmas or on the 25th. But because of how excited I am for this one, I might just push ours
Awesome.
for
Love it.
Christmas. Just so it's a nice Christmas type of episode.
Transition.
Yeah, talking about like
Yes.
mindsets and all this other stuff.
Sweet, man. Yeah, and then like I'd mentioned, if you could just send the audio file and the video, and then what my team is gonna do is like, she'll like edit everything out, or like not edit things out, but she'll like make nice clips, and then
Mhm.
whenever I post something, I'll just like refer it back to your podcast, so then
Mhm.
my audience can get a chance to check out your podcast.
Perfect, perfect. Sounds good.
Love that. Awesome,
Alrighty.
Marco. Have a fantastic week. Have a great Christmas, and let's stay in touch.
All right, thank you. You too. You have a good
All
one.
right.
And
Thank
I'll
you.
follow you from both accounts, my personal and the podcast one,
Okay.
just so you can
Awesome.
see both.
All right.
All
Perfect.
right,
We'll
perfect.
talk soon. Bye.
All right, see ya. Bye bye.